Hey, Thrand here, and I am here with a very special and important project. I've been wanting to build a Viking Age shield for a very long time with heavy oxen rawhide or heavy rawhide and see how durable the shield could actually be using very thin wood like pine, but the actual rawhide being the true strength behind the shield. Well, I addressed Joerg Sprave on this thing, saying that I believe I could build a period shield if I could afford it, and beat your new polycarbonate shield from the time-traveling Viking. I was surprised that I got an immediate contact from Viking War of Clans, a game that I do play myself, and they were more than happy to sponsor this historical project and this friendly competition, so to speak. Viking War of Clans has gone through a huge, massive expansion, finally adding new shaman and new kingdoms. This is really truly the day to join the action. The Vikings really stands out with its HD 3D graphics and smooth gameplay, but best of all, you get to choose your own playstyle, meaning you can build an impenetrable fortress and hold on to what you own, or you can go out and gather an army of Vikings and berserkers and go around and ravage the land and take what you want. One of the things I like about Viking War of Clans are relive old games from back in the day. It's much like having the early EverQuest community with millions of players, but you can build a civilization and even destroy someone's civilization, much like Age of Empires, Warcraft, or one of my favorites, Dungeon Keeper. I also recommend that you try one of the in-game legendary battles with over 1 million players. I can't even describe how it makes you feel like a Viking or a true berserk ganger as you go through trying to crush your enemies and best them and see who is truly better. Try Vikings now, joining me and millions of others with the links down below. You'll get 200 gold, a protection shield, all for free. I would like to thank Viking War of Clans once again for sponsoring this historical shield I built here. Some people might argue it's not totally historical, and for one reason. They believe thinner hides were used. This is true. You can use thinner hides and you can get a lighter shield. Still very protective. As you see up at Alsford Viking Martial Arts, we have a shield we tested up there with really thin hide. We're talking about way thinner than 1 millimeter. Roland Varzeka has made some shields like that as well. Excellent for dueling. But what I'm covering today is I have a challenge by Joerg Sprave, technically. He made a time-traveling Viking shield out of polycarbonate, which, yeah, it's kind of scary. It's almost indestructible. I've seen the test he did on his, and I do think a Viking Age shield, if made as strong as possible, which I'm talking about covering it in heavy oxen or cowhide, or even a horse hide, possibly, could withstand a lot, including with the pine planking. Most of them were fir, pine, spruce, woods like this, which most people have come to the conclusion that these are weak woods, therefore they split easily, and the shields weren't very strong. That's not necessarily true. If the hides adhered properly, which in this case here I've used casein glue, or cheese glue, and I actually had someone working with me, sort of. I was corresponding with Viking. I believe he's from the Cultural Museum in Oslo, Norway, where they actually have the Gokstad shields, which those are famous shields. Everyone knows they're about 1/4 inch to about 1/8 or 1/16 of an inch at the edge. So these thin out tremendously, and most people, like I said, would think they're extremely weak. But it depends on what hide they're covered with. Shields copied after the Trelleborg shield. The Trelleborg find was, I believe, about 33.5 inches in diameter. This shield is 35 inches in diameter, but our final product is actually 36 inches. Now, I saw an article on Thor's News, and there's a guy by the name of Rolf Warming from the University of Copenhagen, and he's decided that Viking shields were proactive and interactive shields and were never used in shield walls or skjoldborg. Point with this is later century we know that they were. So if they were used in shield walls, somebody had to have made tougher shields. We have a law by King Athelstan, an Anglo-Saxon king, who states no shield right shall cover a shield with a sheepskin, or at least they pay 30 shillings. Look that up. He actually states this. Supposedly he didn't want weak shields on the field, and they did use shield walls at the time that he's quoted this. So I could see that. I could see him wanting only heavy oxen and cow hides or maybe even horse hides on the shield. We also have a little bit later century, we have Theophilus, Benedictine monk, who talks about casing glues, paints, and all sorts of
metallurgy and also hides.
Yes, and hides. And in this one, he brings up plates and doors, and he talks about shields. And he says that you use the casing glue to adhere the horse, ass, or cowhide to the shield. And if you don't have that, then you could also use any type of clean cloth. So, and he's talking about painting shields and to cover shields. So that's something that he brings up at 1100 to 1110, which is basically the early 12th century, or very, very late 11th. So anyway, we look at the shield here, and what I've done is I've covered it properly with the hide on both sides, back and front. We've got our edging, and I tilled out the wood to where it is about 5 millimeters at the edge, which is under 1/4 inch. And in the middle, it's under 3/8 inch. So where it needs to be stronger, it's stronger, but this is an extremely thick shield in my mind. I would have liked to have done it if I was making this just for myself here to use. Made it about 1/4 inch and went to about 1/8 of an inch at the edge. Yeah, it would hold up that way. And this is pine. I used pine wood. Let's get a piece right here so y'all can see it. And this is why they're saying it was too weak, is because it breaks like this, and that's against the grain. With the grain where it's glued together, if you look at it, the glue joints won't break, because they're glued with the milk glue or casing glue, cheese glue. But it breaks along the actual grain, and this is thicker than the actual shield that we're going to be testing. This is before it was tilled down, or planed down. And we have our hides here. This will give you an idea of how thick they are on the actual shield. It's about, like I said, almost 2 millimeter or so. About what, 4 to 5 ounce, something like that?
I believe between 4 and 6 ounce.
4 and 6 ounce. But I used the most uniform part of the hide and the thicker part of the hide because, like I said, no one get offended. This is a extreme test to see how strong the shield possibly could have been. The boss is secured with actual
ship nails.
Medieval ship nails. These are like ones that the Vikings would have used to build ships with. If you look them up online, they're not just wedge nails. And we have a handle made out of poplar. I did that because it was easier for me to shape and it doesn't split very easily, and that was a wood that was also possibly used. Could have been a pine handle as well. And the stitching is rawhide, just like the actual edge, and it is glued in as well. So if we chop into this, it's not going to come unstitched. Even if we can make it all the way to the stitching, we should have no problems cutting into the edge of the shield.
We'll find out how it goes.
Let's find out. Let's see what happens. To do this, like I said, I will give shout outs to different people who have helped us make this test possible by donations and sending us stuff that's really nice. This is a medieval arrow. It has real fletchings made of feather, cedar. This is from Daniel Pearson. And he's from Australia, and he's an archer, a medieval archer, and this is a leaf-shaped broadhead or razor head. And we've got a nice finish to it. It's a beautiful arrow. Let's go ahead and we're going to start off with this, and I'm going to shoot it full force into the shield up at the right-hand corner, where actually the wood's thinner, and see what it does. Well, that's the end of my arrow, and I don't think it pierced at all, and may have bit her actual, I don't think your warrior would have a problem with this one. This is not a very broad broadhead, but it didn't make it through. Our wood did not split, and I'm going to have a heck of a time getting this actually out of here. You can see back here the bent over nails that are actually square nails. If you look real close, and those are from Andreas Knoll. He's from Germany, and he sent us these. I use the larger ones, and I use some of the smaller ones as well. Beautiful nails, but that's just as far as it made it. I still consider that a success, even though Joerg Sprave probably would have not gone through it all with a about a 65-70 pound draw bow at that point, the length of the arrow, but still, I'm extremely impressed. Remember, this is pine wood and very thin there. Till went out, because this is actually less than 3/8 an inch, and by here is probably getting down around 1/4 inch. Beautiful. We have a period bodkin point, more like you'd probably use during the Viking age. It's one of the longer ones. It comes to a very needle point. This is probably the closest thing in power to Joerg Sprave using his hammer with the sharpened point on it that we'll probably have today with that sharpened point from the Viking era. We're going to go ahead and try it. We don't know how often anybody would use bodkins in that time period, but just in case they did, let's see if it'll split that shield or damage it more badly or get a deeper penetration. I'm going to shoot to the other side of the shield this time. At least our arrow didn't come flying apart on that one. Now the idea behind this shield is we're gauging with a shield that's very plausible in the Viking age to see what we need to make to send to Joerg Spave, because this isn't going to be the shield shipped, it's too large. But this is impressive. Look what our bodkin had done. As sharp as that is to a point, that's all we got through the shield. I really don't think our being held away from the body, our Viking would be hurt, or our warrior, Scandinavian warrior, in any way. And no wood splitting. Well, they talk about this wood splitting and how it's pine and it's so weak. I think it caught the arrow beautifully, just like it's supposed to.
Now let's see if you can get the arrow back out.
Now we're gonna have some problems getting these out. We might just leave them in for the whole test. Why not?
I'm gonna go get some pliers.
I might remove the shaft, possible. I have a Viking age spearhead, small spearhead, or a javelin head, some people will consider it. It is quite large for a javelin head, to be honest with you. This is a spearhead in my mind. It's from Medieval Shop, just like our center boss. That's our ballistic proof, or I should say proof, but that center boss will be the same one I send to Joerg Sprave. And it's actually proven to be ballistic resistant or bulletproof against small firearms, 22, stuff like that. I never tested it against rifles, but it is 12 gauge. So hopefully I don't accidentally hit that and destroy our spear point, and I hit directly into the shield, which my aim's not bad. I've taken the pin out of the actual spear because the whole reason, if it sticks in like it's been doing, I want to be able to remove the thing easily and continue testing. Which side should I aim for, Caddy?
Whichever. Just don't hurt anything vital.
Oh, from the spear as we did from the arrow. All our spear was able to do, and I know how much force they have, these could pierce a thinner center boss if it was only like 16 gauge, something like that. But this is a 12 gauge, so yeah, it's not going through here. Most of the Viking center bosses, sometimes I think this is heavy and they wouldn't be ballistic proof, but a lot of them were 6 to 10 gauge, which is much thicker than this, although they were a lot smaller. They would protect your hand very well. But I didn't hit it. I hit where I wanted to, a good part of the shield. Let's see if I can actually remove this. We didn't split our planks, like Rolf Warming, I believe is his name.
Hey, it's coming out this time.
Like I said, I did not put this in here solid because I thought I might have to leave it in here.
It's coming out. Just don't cut your fingers.
Let's see what kind of hole we have. Well, I don't know about the see-through shield, but you can actually see through the hole here if you needed to look out, I guess, afterwards. Because we don't have our polycarbonate like Joerg Sprave, but I still think this was a success. You see what the pine did, it caught the blade. If I would have struck, like thrust it into it, which couldn't have been much more powerful than that because it's normally not braced, probably been a lot weaker than throwing, because we've proven throwing is more powerful. It would have got stuck in there and I couldn't have used my spear. That pretty much it. I would have lost the whole fight over having my spear impaled in there, so I would not have wanted to do that. I also like to bring up more thing about clear. The skin is translucent and you can see the actual planks. It was made with 7 planks, just like the Trelleborg shield, and like I said, playing down, but you can see through it. And case and glue is the same as case and paint in a lot of ways. So what they could have done is applied pigment underneath the actual hide itself to make the shield black or yellow, such as in the Gokstad ship, or maybe the colors we're seeing on the Trelleborg shield, but had it under the hide. You'd still be able to see the color underneath, and maybe even paint some kind of intricate stuff on top of the hide itself. One of my theories. heard some stories of Vikings themselves, not by them in sagas. We only see one saga where somebody throws an axe into someone's foot. That's the only account of throwing that I know of. But from the actual enemies, the Saxons later centuries say that the Vikings would throw 2 axes, or like the Franks, the Francesca, and hit their shields, damaging them before they threw their actual javelins or spears and then rushed them. So what we're going to try today is see, will this destroy the shield if I throw a couple of axes at it? Will they stick in it, bounce off? Let's see what happens. I've got a beaked or horn style axe, kind of like a Peterson Type S, with a smaller one-handed version, and a Francesca style axe that's basically more of a Viking age design. No problem. Let's see what we got here. These are both from Medieval Shop too, just to throw that in. Nothing. Let's try the other side. Both hits with the edge. Let's get a close-up and see if it's splitting those planks. They're able to cut through the hide on the outside.
That was the Francesca's head. And over here's the other axe's head.
Yeah, let's check that
Neither
out.
of them made it into the wood though by the feel.
No, it just made it through the hide.
Feels plasticky stuff.
And yes, this is up here where it moves, but it can only move so far. If you look, it can only move so far, but in the hand, the actual hand of a person, it wouldn't be in this rigid frame like you would hold a Argyle or strapped-on shield. It would be in the hand, and the hand can only hold it so steady. So that's why we've got it on a bracket that lets it pivot, and it also tied too, and then it has backing behind it that only lets it move so far, like the human body would, that bounces the body.
Yeah, it didn't make it to the wood on this one. This one maybe. But give me a second.
Smaller head.
This one barely made it into the wood.
Right, but it's a smaller head, and like I said, the smaller the head, the easier chance it is to get deeper because there's less material that has to go through. This hits square on flat, so much wider, a lot more material to cut, harder to go through. Quite impressed. We're doing the dreaded edge test. We're going to test the edging of the shield and see if it can withstand a cut. How deep will the sword go into it? Will it split the planks? Will it go right through? With the edging I got from Viking, you can look him up on Twitter. He has some excellent stuff. He's a conservationist of ancient arms and armor, specifically Viking age. Be sure to look him up on Twitter there. That's where I got all the information. I got the lacing from the Gokstad ship, and I've done the rimming the same way. So who knows if they would use this thick of hide, but if they did, I gave an extra inch to the entire shield, the method I used to go around it. The reason I did it that way is it'll actually protect the wood, but let's see what happens when I try to cut into it. I'm going to use a cast blow technique, which is what's happening is I'm letting the blade rock forward in the hand, and this is kind of like goes inside the wrist. Very nice technique, lots of power. Ooh, and I'm stuck in there good. If I was trying to fight this man and he put that edge out there, my sword is in there. He now has control of my sword. And if you understand what this means I will probably lose now. If he twists this, he can twist it directly out of my hand. We've done that in other videos. So even though this shield is so resilient, it didn't go in very deep at all with that powerful of a blow and this thin of edge, but I'm still stuck in here until I pull it out. So the rimming held up really well. All these lacings are glued in place. And now I could make a little metal clamp and put it on here if I'd like to fix that, like we believe they did at some time period. Because sometimes we find little clamps that are out of place around the shield. So that would work on this. But as for not holding up in a shield wall, I think that would do quite well. So Rolf Warming, I don't know if you're totally right on it because it depends on what you cover the shield with. This doesn't depend on what kind of wood you use so much as what you actually cover the shield with. And to complete our test, we're going to use the dreaded Dane axe that I've used in a few videos and destroyed a helmet. I actually destroyed a transitional style helmet by just pounding the heck out of it with this. Put some extremely big dents. Let's see what it does to the shield. Oh! It didn't make it through. Might try one more just to see if it splits the planks or something crazy happens and aim a little bit higher. Oh! Nothing. That's the thinnest part of the planks. Maybe one more good one. Oh! Yes, I made this, but I am trying to damage it, and it's not making it through the back side whatsoever. We have no holes in the back. We are cutting leather in the front, and we did make it into the planks slightly. It kind of compressed them and pushed the leather into them. But honestly, I think the shield's intact. Not a problem whatsoever. Oh! Nice good cut at the edge. We didn't even make it to our stitch. Oh! That's how far we made it. Not much further than we did with the sword. I said the sword did a little better because at the angle it came in, it got to cut more rawhide. Because like I said, the rawhide sticks out for a bit on the side, so it's not necessarily the wood it's going into. It's slicing the rawhide. But that deep with the sword could easily get you stuck in there. I mean, if you went any further, you wouldn't want to hit the edging. But it's not going to take this shield out. I don't think that's going to be the way this thing is destroyed. Oh! Nice hit near the handle where it's reinforced. No damage whatsoever. The shields will stud everything. Joerg Sprave. That's my challenge. I think this has behaved well enough for the amount of weight, being lighter I believe than the polycarbonate, that it might stand up to your weapons. But since I'm sending you a smaller version that's 2 foot round, and I'll be producing that, putting a video out as soon as it's done, showing a little bit of the making of it and how I make yours different. Just a little bit tougher than this. But I pretty much think the Viking Age shield will do its fair share of defense, almost as good as the modern shield. So what we'll do is we'll ship that off to you and see how much it could take, I guess. See if you could pierce it, penetrate it. Hope you all enjoyed our episode. I'm looking forward to seeing Joerg Sprave's reply back. Be sure to click those links down below and play Vikings War of Clans. Excellent game. And as always, farewell.